Hi everybody, I'm just going to take a few minutes to talk you through some AT2 questions and hopefully this clarifies a few things for everybody. Okay, so the purpose of this task is that you get some practice in designing an evaluation plan. So I want you to design a plan from one of the two tenders that I've given you, and it should be either impact or process. You can't do both. And it should be around 2,500 words, although this is more indicative of kind of what we would expect from a 50% task. And I'm not super worried about the words. I just don't want you to be writing a plan for a whole task here, so I'm trying to give you some parameters to stick to. So most of the programs that I've put up, so I've put up two programs, and both of these have a number of objectives or target groups or strategies. They're real world programs, so they're not neat and tidy, they're really messy. So for the purpose of this assessment, I'm giving you these examples of the tenders as something to launch off. So you've got a bit of meat so that you can create a program. I'm not really fussed about the details of the program or which strategy or objective or campaign you choose. I'm more interested to see that you can design a program you can design an evaluation for whatever you've chosen that's suitable, that has appropriate methods, and that achieves whatever you've set out to do. So, as I said before, I'm not that concerned about the specifics of the program that you're choosing, just that whatever you design is appropriate. Okay, so within this plan that you're designing or that you're putting together, there are a couple of things that are really important to have in there. Now, some of these things won't exist if you're creating a plan in the real world, but for the purpose of this task, there are some things that I really need you to include. So, right at the beginning of the plan that you're creating, I want you to put a description of the program that you're evaluating. So, whichever of the two that you've decided to go with, I want you to provide some type of overview of that program, including the goals and objectives if they exist, and the program strategy. Now, if your program has strategies, as I've said before, I only want you to focus on one or two of them because this task is not designed for you to be evaluating the whole program, just one component of it. You also need to include a small literature review, so I want you to be looking at the literature that surrounds the program that you're writing an evaluation plan for. So, what evidence is out there for a road traffic health promotion program or campaign. You only need to focus on the strategies or the objectives, whatever, that you've chosen for your evaluation. So don't do a literature review on the whole program or on the whole health issue. You just don't have the words all the time for it, and it's just not necessary. The literature that you address here will allow you to discuss it later on and will allow for a justification of the method that you're using. So this section would also include some discussion of why you need to evaluate this program. Now you can write up this section however you like. It's probably gonna be, I would think, around the 1,000 word mark. So you can use subheadings or not. It's up to you. Okay, so this part is the really important part. This is your evaluation strategy that includes your methods. So in this section, I would expect you to have an evaluation question or hypothesis or objectives. Now, if your tender document doesn't have this, then you can make them up, that's fine. If you don't like the ones that are in the tender document, then you can create your own, also not a problem. You need to set out your question or your hypothesis or your objective, whatever it is you have that you want to test. And use this section to answer what you're trying to achieve with your evaluation. So make it really clear to me as the reader what you're trying to do. You need to then have a description of your evaluation design. So what type of design you're using. Is it randomized control? Is it quasi-experimental? And if it is, which type? Or is it an observational design? You might want to look at the literature review to ensure that the type of designs that you're using is kind of consistent with what's been done before. You need to clearly explain why you've chosen this design. You need to have some discussion about the methods for data collection and data analysis. And you should include some discussion of the approaches and their relative strengths and weaknesses. So once again, you'll need to have support evidence to support this. So you'll need to have references there that say, I'm using focus groups for this type of data collection, for this type of study, and it's been used before, and here is all of my evidence. So make sure with this section you want it to be really clear that, here is your research question or your evaluation question. Here is the method that you're going to use to answer it. Here is what you would do. Here's how you would analyze your data. Now, with your first assessment task, you created an instrument to do this, and I'm not asking you to do that with this task. You all know how long that took, so I'm not asking you to do it again. It is a good idea in this section, though, to include some kind of overview of what you might be asking. So, if you're doing focus groups, then you might just include a couple of overarching themes that you're going to include as questions in that focus group. So, for example, we'd be asking the focus group if they've seen the ads, if those ads had any effect on the way they're driving, if their kids have seen those ads, for example. It doesn't have to be too in-depth or too many, just an overview of what type of data you would be collecting. Okay, and the final thing you need is a timeline for the components of the evaluation. So you would see in some of the tender documents they've got some kind of indicative timelines, so you can use those as a basis. But I just want you to have a think about all of the components of the program. So the planning phase, the data collection phase, the analysis, the write-up, and so on and so on. So make sure you've got all of those components there. You can do this however you like. Some people like to do a Gantt chart. Some people just like a timeline. Some people like a table. So completely up to you. I don't mind how it looks so long as it's included. Okay, so that's everything from me on this task for now. I'll try and answer any questions that are up on Cloud Deacon. But like with the other task and the case studies that I gave you, I'm not super bothered about which case study you choose or the details within the case study or the tender. I'm just interested in you being able to create a plan for an evaluation, and I want to give you something that allows you a bit of opportunity to do that. So if you've got any questions, post them on Cloud Deacon and I'll get back to them when I can.